When we get angry, we often don't make much progress forward. And when combined with someone else, that anger just multiplies if you're both angry. It also makes life miserable, which, of course, who would have thought? You don't want to be angry all the time, right? You want to have some fun. You want to be happy. Obviously, no one wants to be angry all the time. Some righteous anger maybe here and there, but even me, I just don't like to be angry in general. And so I sit down. Well, how can I prevent myself from not ever, but being angry or being to the point of banging down walls, screaming, yelling. I don't really yell, so weird. But not a lot bothers me. And so an effective way of getting rid of anger or stopping anger when it's happening is a method that I use. It's questioning the anger. And what does that mean? Well, you start to get angry. Everyone knows that moment when you're starting to get angry. You're getting up. You're like, all right, you're making me really upset right now, and I'm gonna get you. All right, maybe not like that, but we sit there and we think. Actually, we stop thinking when we get angry, which is the big idea of this thing. But when we catch ourselves, if you can learn to catch yourselves and just sit there and question, why am I angry right now? What is this situation doing, and why am I reacting this way? And so if you can do that, it helps. Well, what does questioning have to do with quietening anger? Well, turns out if you're angry, you can't really be angry and curious at the same time. It's really, really hard. I've never seen a case where it can happen. If you got a case, by all means, share it with me and we can talk about it. But as a basis, you can't be curious and angry at the same time. You can be confused and curious, and confused kind of can lead into anger if you stop, kind of questioning and figuring things out. But as a whole, you can't really question and be angry at the same time. Okay? Or be curious and angry at the same time. And so, if you can catch yourself in the moment and then shape it in a way where you're like, well, why am I angry right now? Why am I getting upset right now? And I like to use upset more than angry. I don't really get angry, but I do get upset. And words matter, okay? So keep that in mind. If you want to change your vocabulary, you can do it. But so why am I getting upset, or why am I getting angry in a situation? Well, if you can question that, then not only are you able to take yourself out of the anger, which by all means, when you're with someone else and they're angry at you, they're coming at you, it's kind of hard to do that and deal with the situation at the same time. But if you can do it quick, or just learn to try and do it while you're in those situations, if you get in a lot of situations where you are angry and you start questioning it, if you can just start the initial process of it, eventually you'll be able to do it faster and faster and faster. It's not going to be 100%, right? But eventually you'll get there. And so not only are you able to get yourself out of the anger, but you also learn about yourself in the process. Because anger is internal. It comes from, external forces can have an effect on you, but ultimately you choose to get angry. Something bothers you specifically, and you let yourself get angry. And if you have a differing opinion, we can talk about it. But for the basis of this video, that's what we're sticking with, okay? Awesome. So let me take you back to a moment in my days as a leasing agent. I worked at this property, and actually near where I'm at now, and my coworker didn't necessarily like me too much. I didn't know why at the time. I just knew that something was up. She didn't like me, whatever. And I just kind of lived on my days, and I ignored it for the most part, right? I tried to do my thing, let her do hers. and just move on. Okay? But there was one day where things kind of escalated a little bit. And I'm going to use this example because it is one of the few times that I actually let myself get upset and respond in an upset way. Even though it wasn't much, it was still enough to where afterwards I sat and thought about it myself and thought about how I could approach it better next time. And this is one of the last times that I did actually get upset. Significantly. Enough to where it was an emotional response. Right? Relatively. And so, on this particular day, let me take you into it, right? Got to work, cool, coworker gets to work. I had my earphones in, I had one earphone in, and I was talking to my mom, and every now and then I would do this, I would just talk to my mom on the phone, because no one really comes immediately in the morning. And so, I was just talking to my mom, catching up, doing the whole thing, and she leaves, and then I'm talking to my mom. I continue talking to my mom, just having fun with it, because I don't get to see her a lot, so I was making the most of that time. And then all of a sudden, she comes out, starts coming at me. Supposedly, I was manipulating the system, and I stole a prospect that wasn't supposed to be mine some day prior, like some few days prior. And at first, I was really confused, and I was like, what the heck's going on? Because I had just gotten back from, I was off the weekend, and so I've been gone for several days. Came back, and then this is how, I start off my day. And I was having a good day. I did my workout, awesome, we're doing great, talking to my mom, awesome, love it. But obviously, it wasn't shared, two different people. And so I was confused, and I was like, what the heck is going on right now? I don't understand. And then after she got done with her whole spiel, she left again, and I sat on the computer, and I was like, let me see what I can find. What the heck is going on? Right? And then I actually, if we fast forward a little bit, I did find the prospect and all of that. All legit, by the way, because I don't like being in a position to lie, and I don't like lying in general. So for me, I was like, okay, let me find this, because I know I'm not doing anything, but I know that she's looking for something that I'm doing. And so if you ever heard the phrase, you look for something, you're going to find it. And even if it's not true, you can convince yourself that it is true, right? In both positive and negative ways. And that's exactly what happened in this case. So I found this, and then she came back, and I was like, hey, this is obviously mistake. It's here. And then she was like, well, you put that there. I was like, no, it's all time stamped. You can't really manipulate that. So that's that. And then she starts another argument about some other stuff that maybe I was doing. And then just kept trying to push it on and on, and going down the spiral, the rabbit hole, whatever. So at this point, I'm like, okay, this is enough. I'm tired of this, not dealing with this anymore. And ultimately, kind of bite me in the back, but it worked out. Long term, it worked out. I am who I am today because what happened, right? Not exactly that specific situation scenario, but overall, the whole last year, it made me who I am. So I'm not complaining about it, right? But I had enough, and I was upset, and I was like, okay, not happening. I started talking. I started addressing. And I was like, this is not going to happen. You're not going to sit here, call me a liar, and go through all this shit and come at me, right? Not going to happen. We're going to address this, get it done with. Done. And it finally started de-escalating. I'm pretty sure I just stopped responding at some point, and I think that's what shifted it. And then eventually I called my boss or whatever, or texted my boss or something, and was basically like, this is stupid, I've had enough of this. He was off on vacation or something at the time. So of course he's even, disheartened to hear, or not disheartened, but he was like, this is stupid, right? I would be too. So let me go back to the situation. And that's all done. emotions, tense, all the tension gone. Ideally, well, it's still there, but you know, everything's out in the air now. Cool, awesome. Let's move on with the day. So, looking back on that situation, I found myself thinking, you know, how could I have done this better? What could I have done? And why did I get upset? Why did I get angry? And why did I start, you know, because I changed, right? Normally I just ignore it. But in this specific situation, I actually, and thinking about it before I started talking, is this stems back to my childhood. I hate being called a liar. I stopped lying for a reason, so that people would stop calling me a liar, or so my grandmother would stop calling me a liar. And then I realized that it didn't matter, so I just stopped lying in general. And then to have someone just actively call me a liar, even though it's made up evidence, and targeting me, I'm like, okay, this is stupid. So that's why I got upset. I got upset because I don't like being called a liar, and that, let's say, hurt my ego a little bit, right? Or made me feel like I should respond, because that's, in my mind, I thought it was stupid. It's just such a stupid scenario. The events are stupid. You spent all weekend trying to form this evidence against me, and it fell apart immediately, right? And so thinking back on this, I'm like, well, obviously, I got angry. Why did I get angry? Well, not like people calling me a liar. Okay. So then I sat with that a little bit, and ultimately, what goes through my mind in situations like this is, well, in 5 years, is this really going to matter? No. Which means I shouldn't have really gotten angry in the first place, because ultimately, this person's opinion doesn't matter into my life in 5 years out in the future, because 5 years in the future is what we're ultimately working for, right? So, thinking about that, I'm like, well, this was kind of, you know, a stupid scenario. A lot of stuff happened that didn't happen, and actually, I ended up moving properties because of this specific incident. I tried to save it, but it didn't really work. And they moved me because it was easier, simpler, and the place that I was moved to was all women, and she had been in a previous property where it was all women, so it just didn't work well, right, the dynamics. So easier to move me, even though, you know, whatever, however you look at it, right? Who was the problem? But either way, again, it worked out the way it did, and I learned a lot after that, right? So ultimately, you know, what can I do? Well, I could have questioned it earlier. I could have been like, hey, why am I getting upset right now? And and maybe I could even take space. I used to take space when I was younger because I was in kind of an anger management like therapy thing. Because I did have a lot of anger growing up because of all the adoptions, or not all the adoptions, but switching families all the time, back and forth. So I actually had a lot of anger compared to the other two. And so my big thing was, when I was with my therapist or child therapist, whatever, he would work on anger management with me. And actually that's how I learned to play chess. We played chess because it was the only thing that seemed to calm me down, I guess. So I ended up moving properties, and because of this whole situation. So I was like, well, I could have addressed this better, right? A long term or short term, whatever. I could have addressed it better. If I would have questioned why I was angry, then I can see what the triggers were for me personally, and I could fix those. And what I mean by fix is understand why those happened inside of me and what I can do to better avoid them next time. And so that's what I did. Now, if someone calls me a liar, I'm like, cool, that's your choice. If you see me as a liar, that's awesome. I can't really control that, right? And ultimately it makes my life a lot easier, because now I don't have that stress on me. If you want to call me a liar, fine, call me a liar. But I know in my mind, and my God, so, and that's who I answer to, right? But yeah, if you can learn to question your anger, sorry about the sniffles again. If you can learn to question that anger and understand why certain events, why certain things trigger you, it just might be possible to keep you from being angry all the time. If you feel like you're angry all the time, or the small moments that you do get angry or upset, like in the moments like what I just had, then you can figure out why you got angry, why you got upset. put the pieces together in your mind and understand that you don't have to stay that way. You can mess with it. You can shift your perspective on that and understand what really matters to you. And if you really want to stand by that anger, then by all means, you can stand by the anger. Me personally, I don't believe being angry is the route to solving things. Some people feel like they need anger to move forward. I don't think so. I think if you just move forward with the passion and then get upset with yourself specifically, I don't think it's good to be upset with other people. Upset with myself, awesome. Like if I'm not living up to my standards, of course I'm going to be upset with myself, and rightfully so. And but with other people, I don't think it's reasonable. I mean, you see all the chaos in the world, so obviously I don't condone any of that. If you can fix it, like just doing this, and this is just simply communicating with yourself. It's the same thing with relationships. If you can communicate, this is just internal communication skills. Can you figure out what triggers you and address it and move forward from it? So that's my 2 cents.